All right, we are live, and we've got a lot to talk about in the California weather forecast today. The top story is going to be those thunderstorms coming through over the next 3 days. Now, before we get into it, I will remind you to stay tuned for the end of the forecast, where I'll try my best to answer any questions that have been posted in the live chat. But without further ado, let's get into the top story for today, and it's those thunderstorms that are going to start to come in this afternoon. You can see the time frame right here is 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. for this very northern part of California. Then as we get into the weekend, that area that's getting these thunderstorms is actually going to expand. You can see it stretches out throughout almost all of Northern California and then into the Sierras as well. And if you look at the green, I don't know what you'd call that, circles, ovals here in this image, the dark or the complete line right there is what's likely today. That's where we're expected thunderstorms. The dashed line is where those thunderstorms are likely on Saturday, and that yellow dashed line is where those thunderstorms are likely on Sunday. So you can see the storm itself is almost moving from west to southeast before it eventually works its way down into Southern California. Now, some other new information that just came out this morning, there's actually a red flag warning in place in the very northern parts of California, right on the California-Oregon border, and that red flag warning, not so much due to the winds. The winds aren't actually looking all that extreme, maybe 5 to 15 miles per hour, but then if you're directly in the vicinity of a thunderstorm, you might get some 40 mile per hour wind gusts. So that's strong winds around the thunderstorm, but overall throughout the region, not too crazy. The reason the red flag warning is in place is because of abundant lightning and dry fuels expected in the pink area. So it's the combination of that lightning that's expected because of these thunderstorms up here throughout the day today, mixed with these dry fuels. So this map right here is just showing fuel moistures, and just easy way to look at it, if there's this green color, that means the fuels have a lot of moisture in them, not going to be easy for them to catch on fire. Then if you're in this bright red color, that's where your fuels are dry. And it makes sense that California and much of the rest of the Southwest is in this dry fuel category, because majority of our region is in extreme drought right now. But you can see directly where that thunderstorm is likely and where that red flag warning is in place. That is one of the areas where we see this bright red color, which means we're at about 5 to 6% fuel moisture, which is certainly dry. Now, with that being said, over 90% of fires that start are actually because of humans, so I would say I'm about as I maybe shouldn't go there, but I was going to say I'm about as scared as a lightning threat as just a typical day where people are out in these dry fuels. So take it what you will, that's just my opinion there, but there is now a red flag warning in place. So let's look at where this storm is actually coming from, because to be honest, it's a pretty weird system that's causing these thunderstorms in the first place. So this is a pretty normal setup. This is what you'd expect it to look like this time of year. Just a nice little ridge over the western half of the U.S., keeping our temperatures warm and dry. That's typical for this time of year. Now, what is out of the ordinary is what's causing these thunderstorms. It's this little trough that's breaking off of the system that's going through Canada and then is forming its own little cutoff low right over Northern California. So just in case you missed it, because it is weird to see, I'll go through it again. So there's normal setup, it's a ridge, and then this random cutoff low goes directly over Northern California. That's what's causing the thunderstorm possibility, and it's also bringing some of those cooler temperatures down to California as well. That's another one of the big things we'll be talking about in this video, the impact that this storm will be having on our temperatures. Just the summary version, we're going to be going in many places from well above average temperatures to actually below average temperatures as that system moves all the way through California over the next few days. So, big thing we're interested in, where and when are these thunderstorms going to happen? So you can see, as of right now, not showing any thunderstorms yet, but that's going to start to change as we get into this evening. First ones look like they start to pop up around 2 p.m., then by 5 p.m., those thunderstorms get a bit more widespread. And then what you'll notice, it actually looks like there's the largest intensity thunderstorm getting into about 8 p.m. tonight, right between Cavello and Chico. It's almost that triangle of Cavello, Chico, and Redding. Looks like you might get a rather significant thunderstorm around 8 p.m. tonight. If you're watching this and live in that region, be sure to comment if that ends up happening. I would love to know. Now, something that's going to happen throughout the next few days is you'll see calming patterns throughout the morning hours, and then as you get back into the afternoon, the thunderstorms kick back up again. So I was just clicking through the morning hours. There wasn't all that much going on, and then as right when we get into 2 p.m. on Saturday, you can see widespread thunderstorms covering a rather large region. And this forecast model actually has the thunderstorms going as far south as almost even into Santa Rosa. That, I would say, is a little bit different than we're seeing on the original map right here. They have it stopping a little farther north, but this does have these thunderstorms going a little farther south, so that's something we'll have to watch as well. But overall, Saturday, you can see just much more widespread thunderstorms getting into the Sierras and possibly even east of San Jose as well. I'm not predicting any thunderstorms actually going into the Bay Area. I think for a number of reasons that's unlikely to happen. So as we get into late Saturday night into early Sunday morning, once again you see that calming behavior. Seems like the thunderstorms are all done, and then once we get into Sunday afternoon, the thunderstorms kick back up again. It seems like 2 p.m. is right when these thunderstorms start to pop off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you can see stretches into the Sierras once again, even some parts of western northern California, and then you'll also notice stretching much farther south into southern California at this point. And that makes sense because you could see how the storm was traveling, starts up here in NorCal, and then over the next 3 days, slowly works its way into Southern California. So Sunday is where we start to see the impacts going into SoCal, but then Sunday night once again calms down, and then we might see some last lingering effects in the Sierras on Monday. That's actually something that's changed from yesterday's forecast. Yesterday, storm seemed like it was done on Sunday night. Now we're actually seeing some activity continuing into Monday afternoon. So that's something we'll have to look at on Monday morning's forecast. We might still be talking about this same story. So the big question here, I know that you're probably asking because one of the big concerns right now is the drought that's going on in California. So you hear storms coming in, your first thought might be, oh, we're getting some rain. And I actually have some good news for you. Compared to yesterday's model, they're showing more rainfall associated with this storm. So yesterday, we're at most getting 0.1 inches of rain. Now we actually have some regions in here that look like they could be getting up to a half an inch of rain. Now, with that being said, of course, that's not as much as we would like. We would like to see 5 inches of rain, not 0.5 inches of rain. But at this point in the season, we'll certainly take whatever we can get. But I will say, that's certainly not a significant amount of rainfall, so not likely to do any significant damage to the drought or help us out in those regards, but whatever moisture we can get is certainly some good news, and the fact that this is at least looking better than yesterday, I would say is a silver lining as well. Now, thunderstorms, obviously a key impact for much of Northern California with this storm. The other part of this system that we're going to be seeing, and I'll actually show it on this map first, are the onshore winds that we're going to be getting as this system moves through. So, that's all the way into Tuesday. Let's go back into Friday, Saturday, Sunday. As this system's moving through Northern California, what you'll notice is just this continual onshore flow into the Bay Area and into much of our coastlines, just continual onshore flow. Now what that's going to be doing is promoting the marine layer that we've been seeing over the last few days. You can actually see it right now looking at the satellite imagery. You can see those clouds stretching all the way into the bay, into some of our valleys, over almost the entirety of the North Bay. Santa Cruz Mountains, I can attest to that. Looking out my window right now, it's completely foggy outside. So that is actually going to continue and increase as this storm comes in. So you can actually you can actually see it better on this map. You can see this onshore flow has already started with some of those high clouds being pushed into Northern California. That's something we weren't seeing yesterday, but obviously we're seeing now. Then also as those cooler temperatures come in, we're going to see a deepening of the marine layer. So unfortunately, if you're not liking those clouds and that fog around the Bay Area, that is here to stay over this weekend. Most likely going to be some gloomy skies along the coast and some cooler temperatures and some onshore flow as well. So if we want to actually look at the temperatures, I always like to look at the temperature anomalies first. This shows for what temperatures should be today, how far off of the average are you? So for example, yesterday in the Sacramento Valley, we were 30 degrees warmer than average, although you notice areas along the bay and along the coastlines were actually below average. Now we're going to see both of those increase as we get into this afternoon. Or I should say, the trend works in the same direction, the cooling direction. So in the northern Sacramento Valley, we're still 20 to 25 degrees above average, but that's at least not the 30 degrees above average we saw yesterday. Then along the coastline, we start to see that marine layer increase and start to cool our temperatures down even more. Especially along the central coast here, we're getting maybe 12 to 15 degrees below average temperatures. Around the Bay Area, we're most likely 5 degrees below average. Monterey, working into Salinas Valley, maybe 5 to 10 degrees below average temperatures. So big contrast when it comes to our valleys and coasts due to that marine influence that we're seeing. And that's going to be continuing into Saturday afternoon, but actually increasing in that cooling trend once again. I got to figure out a better way to say that. The decrease in temperatures will be increasing. If you know a better way to say that, please let me know in the chat. So what I'm trying to say is that cooling trend in the valleys will continue into Saturday, and the cooling trend along the coast will continue into Saturday as well, especially in the central coast. At that point, on Saturday afternoon, we're 17 to even 20 degrees below average temperatures. And you also see that working into the Sierras as well, one of those places where we will be getting those thunderstorms. Then just for fun, let's check out Sunday afternoon. Looks like once again, the coast is looking cool, the Sierras are looking cool where we have those storms. But at this point, the storm has moved its way into SoCal. You can tell because of the much below average temperatures we're seeing throughout that entire region, whereas Northern California is back into that ridge pattern right there. So Northern California goes actually back into those warm temperatures towards the start of next week, right back up to 25 to 30 degrees above average. So if we want to actually look at the temperatures themselves, these were our highs from yesterday. It's interesting to look at these so we can compare. You can see northern parts of the valley in the low to mid 90s. If we look at the high temperatures for today, now we're in the high 80s to low 90s, and you can see along the bay, we're even possibly getting into the high 50s to low 60s, with the high in San Francisco today expected to be 60 degrees. Now, if we get into the high temperatures for Saturday, you can really see that cooling trend take effect. Much of the valley is now in the low 80s. Parts of the Sierras are below freezing, and then along the bay, we're in the mid 50s to mid 60s, even in the North Bay, where we typically have rather warm temperatures this time of the year. San Jose all the way down to 67 degrees on Saturday. Then on Sunday, we should start to see the valley come back up. We were just looking at that. Their temperatures go back up as the storm goes all the way down into SoCal. Although San Francisco, parts of the North Bay, still cool along the coast as that marine layer continues over that area. But what you do notice is the Sierras have those blue colors right there, which represents below freezing temperatures. So the big question there is, with those below freezing temperatures, with some of this precipitation from our thunderstorms, is there the possibility of any snow? And it looks like there is. And just like our rainfall, this is actually increased from what the forecast models were showing yesterday. Yesterday they were showing maybe an inch of rain. Now we actually have this one bullseye that could get up to maybe 3 to 5 inches of rain. I mean, not rain, snowfall. Big difference there. Okay, just to say that again, just because I know I just messed that up. Yesterday, this map was showing 1 inch of snowfall. Now we have this bullseye showing 3 to 5 inches of snowfall. Again, it's not widespread, and it is specifically located over the southern Sierras where we have those below freezing temperatures, but more snowfall than was originally expected, and snowpack is about 70% of what it should be this time of year, so any additional snowfall we can get is certainly some good news. So now let's follow this storm as it moves down into Southern California, because that's going to have some big changes to the Southern California weather as well. So we'll start with right now, we still have that ridge over much of California, but then over the next few hours and into this afternoon, that cutoff low starts working its way into NorCal and then eventually down into Southern California. So the first thing we're thinking about is, will Southern California see any of those thunderstorms that we're getting in Northern California? Not seeing anything through Friday, through Saturday, but then as we get into Sunday, we're going to start to see those thunderstorms stretch through the southern Sierras, but then pushing into parts of southern and central California as well. Then, like I said, there's a big change. So just for the timing on that was 2 p.m. on Sunday, 5 p.m. on Sunday. We do have the possibility of some of those thunderstorms reaching into central and southern California, and then a big change in the models. We're now seeing some possibility on Monday afternoon, 2 to 5 p.m., but that's mostly just in the southern Sierras. So there is the possibility of some thunderstorms in Southern California. What you notice though is it certainly doesn't stretch all the way down into San Diego. As that storm, you notice it almost moves down off of where maybe San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara area, and then it almost moves directly east into places like Arizona and Nevada. So it doesn't go all the way through the state. It kind of takes a detour after getting down by the central coast. So still the possibility of some storms going into Southern California, and with that there is the possibility of picking up some rainfall. That's certainly some much needed rainfall. If we look at the fuel moisture map again, Southern California is one of the driest places in the country right now when it comes to our fuels. So any rainfall we can get is certainly appreciated. You can see the majority is going to be in the southern Sierras, although majority of that might actually just be falling in the form of snow that we're just looking at, maybe 3 to 5 inches there. But we do have the possibility of maybe 0.1 inches if you're in LA, San Diego. That is certainly something to talk about. I think actually the bigger aspect of what this storm is going to be bringing is the impact it'll have on your temperatures and the marine layer. So right along the coast right here in Southern California, you can see that marine layer is strong right now. The clouds working through the Salinas Valley, all the way through the central coast, Santa Barbara, over Los Angeles, covering all of San Diego. That's been happening for a couple of days now. You can see all those clouds off the coast right here. And what's going to happen as that storm goes through on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, it's just going to increase the onshore flow in places like Los Angeles and San Diego. And what that's going to do is deepen the marine layer, cool our temperatures down, bring in more low clouds and fog. I'm not expecting much clearing over the next couple of days in a lot of our coastal cities in Southern California as that marine layer just continues to strengthen. So it's interesting to look at the temperature anomalies. So how far off are your temperatures from the average? If we look at yesterday, majority of the state was above average temperatures, but that's going to be a big change as that low pressure system works its way into Southern California. Just clicking all the way into Sunday and then early into Monday, you can see the contrast that this brings to California. So just clicking through this again, because this map just perfectly shows what's going on here. Low pressure system goes through NorCal, then works its way into SoCal, while NorCal returns back to those ridge-like conditions. So with that, on Sunday and Monday, as that low pressure system works into SoCal, you can see much of Southern California now 10 to 15 degrees below average temperatures. Some places even in that purple color, which represent 25 degrees below average temperatures. And especially along the coast as well, central coast, places like San Luis Obispo down to Santa Barbara, you're likely to be 10 to 15 degrees below average over the next few days as that onshore flow and that marine layer continues. So let's just continue to click through here to see when you might start to warm back up again. Looks like you'll be warming back up as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. But I'm sure those cool temperatures will be much appreciated because it has been warm and dry throughout much of the state for quite some time now. So let's look at the temperatures themselves. These were the highs from yesterday. Bakersfield, you were 97. Los Angeles, you were in the low 70s. San Diego, 63. And then we had some areas in the deserts up in the triple digits. Now, when we look at the high temperatures for today, you notice that that cooling trend hasn't really come in yet. Bakersfield still 97. Los Angeles, you're still almost 70. Although I'd be kind of surprised if you end up getting into the 70s just based on how strong that marine layer is looking right now. But we still have areas in the desert in the triple digits. And that's because that low pressure system hasn't moved down into Southern California yet. But if we look at Saturday, we're going to start to see that cooling trend come in. Bakersfield and parts of San Joaquin Valley now in the mid 80s. Much of the central coast is actually in the mid 50s. That's one of the big stories here. Much of the central coast over the next few days, 10 to 15 degrees below average. Doesn't look like they're even going to be getting into the 60s on Saturday. Los Angeles, you're in the mid 60s. San Diego, you're moderated enough by the ocean that you're pretty much the same this entire time, but you see the desert gets out of those triple digits and now into the low 90s. Then if we look at Sunday, similar trend continues. Much of the San Joaquin Valley in the mid 80s. Central coast, you're still just in the high 50s to low 60s. Los Angeles, you're in the mid 60s. San Diego, you're low 60s. So as that low moves through, that's going to be cooling our temperatures down, strengthening and deepening the marine layer, keeping our coastal cities nice and cool over the next few days, and cooling down the desert as well, hopefully bringing some much needed moisture to help us out with those dry fuel moistures that we see across Southern California. So I'll give you guys one last second to post any questions you might have in the live chat. I'll just do a quick summary of the forecast. Currently, ridge conditions causing above average temperatures throughout much of the state. However, we've got this low pressure system and this cutoff low breaking off and moving over Northern California. That's going to create some thunderstorms Friday, Saturday, Sunday, cool down our temperatures as it moves through the state, bringing much of Southern California 10 to 20 degrees below average temperatures by Sunday. So if we want to actually see where those thunderstorms are expected on Friday, it's the very northern parts of California. And just a reminder, we do have that red flag warning in place where we're combining the lightning threat with some of those dry fuels that we see up there on the California-Oregon border. So that's what it looks like Friday. If we look at Saturday, you can see that area getting the thunderstorms expands all the way down into the Sierras. And then similar story on Sunday as much of Northern California and the Sierras still getting those thunderstorms. Now the good news in the forecast, if we look at the rainfall that's expected, actually a bit more than was originally expected. Now we have some places in the Sierras here expected to get maybe 0.5 inches of rain, although overall still not a big storm by any standards. Most places just going to be lucky to get 0.1 inches of rainfall. But again, something to always think about is the possibility of some lightning, some gusty winds, combining with some of our dry fuels that certainly could cause for concern of some potential fire starts. So if you live in one of these areas that is expecting some of these thunderstorms, be sure to stay updated with all your local resources and anything that they're saying about the current situation in your area. So I'll just check out the live chat here. We have a hello, much love everyone, and this is the most informative weather broadcast on the net. Well, thank you very much, Miss Joan of the Ark. That is a very nice compliment, but seeing that we don't have any other questions, actually I'll give you guys 30 seconds to ask some questions if you have anything about the thunderstorms, wildfire, drought, whatever you might be thinking. I've got a little bit of time here, so I'll give you guys any time you might need to ask some questions. In the meantime, I will show you some of the research I've been doing. Figured this could be an interesting way to wrap it up and tie it into the forecast today. So just a note, I didn't actually make this figure right here, but it's a perfect figure that shows how the drought has changed in California over time. I thought this would be a good thing to show because it shows that I know things seem bad right now. I'll actually pull up the current drought monitor that we're seeing in California right now, just so we have something to compare those current maps to. If we look at Southwest US, you can see that the majority of the state is in that extreme drought category. The area covered in exceptional drought is actually starting to expand. And that's certainly not good news, but I wanted to show this because it does put things in perspective. In 2014 and 2015, the majority of the state was in that exceptional drought category. So things can get worse. So that's a perspective right there that things were certainly worse in 2014 and 2015. And then this was a plot that I did make. I wanted to see how this has been changing over the last 20 years. So just looking at one of these maps right here, you would say that maybe 70% of the state is in that bright red color, maybe 50% of the state is in that burgundy color. So what I wanted to do is see how those state percentages have been changing over time. And so for example, I'll just take a random slice here. In 2016, it looks like 100% of the state was abnormally dry. About 70% of the state was in extreme drought, while maybe 50% of the state was in exceptional drought. So you can see where the drought conditions go up in California, where they go down, where they go up, where they go down, and then that huge drought that we had between 2012 and 2017. And then you can see currently that drought popping back up again. Now, a couple things you notice there. One, the fact that the drought is popping back up again, but two, that it still isn't looking as bad as it was between 2014 and 2016. Now, the next thing I wanted to do was see if there's any correlation between these drought conditions and wildfire, because I know that is one of the biggest concerns that we have in California. So in this plot here, I combined that exact same drought data, but with the monthly acres burned. So for example, I'm actually going to go to the yearly plot because it's a lot easier to see. So it's basically exactly what I was just showing, but averaged over yearly values. So it's a little easier to pick out any trends. And it looks like there is a trend. So as the drought goes down here in 2006, acres burned isn't all that much, maybe just 500,000 acres in the entire year. Then in 2009, drought conditions go way up, acres burned goes over 1.5 million acres. Then we get some great rainfall in, I believe, 2010, and drought conditions goes down, acres burned goes down as well. So that would certainly be some bad news because it shows that there is a trend between drought conditions and how many acres burned. Now the good news is the trend isn't perfect. If it was perfect, 2014 to 2017, we would see these acres burned just spiking out of this entire plot. You wouldn't even be able to see the top of them to combine a drought that bad with what a perfect correlation in acres burned would have been. So that's the good news, because while there is a relationship between drought and acres burned, it's not perfect. So just because we're seeing more of a drought popping up right now isn't actually a guarantee that we're going to see huge wildfires. It just possibly makes it more likely. So I just saw the most recent comment. I'm just worried for fire season, worst part of the year. Hopefully what I just showed could be of some encouragement. I know maybe it's not, since there is some trend between drought and wildfire, but I would say there are two encouraging things here. One, the drought was worse in 2014 to 2017, and those weren't the worst wildfire years we ever saw. The other words of encouragement, this is actually the main thing that I think about when trying to think about this next wildfire season, is the fact that last year, I'll actually pull up the stats from last year. Cal Fire. So last year was the worst wildfire year of all time. And I'm not stats and events. That's what we're looking for. Top 20 largest California wildfires. So last year was the worst wildfire year of all time. We burned over 4 million acres. You can see out of the top largest wildfires in the history of California, number 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 were all last year. We had the August Complex, SCU, Creek Fire, LNU, and the North Complex. So last year was a very weird year when it comes to wildfire. And the good news is, in my opinion, last year, what kicked off that wildfire season last year was that massive lightning event that caused 400 to 500 lightning fires to start across the state, basically overwhelmed our resources, and caused a lot of these fires that you see here in the top 20 largest wildfires in the history of California. Now, the good news is, a lightning event like that happening is extremely rare, so I'm not expecting that kind of event to happen again this next year. So my overall prediction for this wildfire season, even though the drought is looking worse, even though the fuels are looking drier, I don't think a lightning storm like that is going to happen again. So I don't think this next wildfire season is going to be as bad. Now, what you might be thinking is, wait, there's lightning going on right now. What are you talking about? But something I will say is, although there certainly is some lightning coming in over the next 3 days, it's not looking nearly as large of a system as that system that kicked off all those lightning fires last year in August. So that one, basically the entire state was funneling in moisture from Tropical Storm Fausto, and it basically just pushed in enough moisture and energy to kick off lightning fires across the entire state. This one looks like just kind of an isolated little low pressure system, not seeing the same kind of intensity that we saw with those lightning fires that we saw last year. So I also see this coming here. Is this a long-term trend of getting drier for California? And that is actually a great question. And I will have to say, stay tuned for next week. I'm actually working on making those figures right now. I have a 30-year climatology of California, and what I'm currently working on is seeing the trends in temperature, in moisture, in rainfall, all kinds of things. So stay tuned. I will hopefully be able to answer that question last week once I make the figures for how all our different variables have been changing over the last 30 years, and I'll hopefully be able to answer that question. So I think that just about wraps it up for today. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Please let me know in the comments if you end up getting any of these lightning or thunderstorms that we're predicting over the next few days. But overall, hope you have a great weekend, and thanks for watching.